Hey guys, how you going? Hope you're having a fantastic afternoon. This afternoon I'm going to be reviewing a very unique film. Now this is unique because it is said to be the most brutal film in Czech history. So it's a film from the Czech Republic, so there's the sort of Eastern European feel to it. This doesn't have subtitles, so unless you can speak Czech, you're going to have a pretty hard time concentrating throughout the whole duration of the film. But once again, I'm always up for experiencing new type of horror films and seeing what different cultures bring. So I was really curious as to see what this was like, and seeing that it had the reputation as the most brutal, bloodthirsty film in Czech history, I just had to check it out. Thankfully, it was sent to me last week, so I got my hands on it, and this film was made in 2009, directed by Roman Vuškovka, and this film is Nekdo tam dol Mamarad. I am not good at Czech, so the actual English translation is Someone Down There Likes Me. And as you can see from this cover, apparently in the Czech Republic, all of the films are in this sort of cardboard casing. So it's not in a proper DVD case, so that was interesting as well. But anyway, Nekdo tam dol Mamarad is about, or Someone Down There Likes Me, follows the life of Victor. Now, Victor is a typical father. He has a beautiful wife and an absolutely stunning daughter. It was actually quite amazing just how good looking she was. He has this daughter and wife. They're living very peacefully. Things seem to be alright. And that is until one night where Victor is walking home and he's mugged. This mugger has a pipe and he belts him over the head quite a few times and steals his money. And so from that moment we cut off into the near future, and Victor is confined to a wheelchair. He suffered a lot of brain damage from this attack, and all he can do is blink and dribble, and the rest of him he just can't move. So he's pretty much totally dependent on his wife and daughter. He can't change him. He has nappies, and so when he craps himself, he has to get changed. So it's a really depressing sort of atmosphere, and you really feel for the wife who pretty much has to take care of him as though he's a baby. So all he does is pretty much dribble and blink. That's how he can communicate. And his wife is starting to feel the pressure, and she's not getting any action in bed, obviously. And so she wants a bit of action. So she starts bringing home to her house in front of her husband. She brings home all these strange men, and she's actually having sex with them. And she's not discreet about it at all. She's doing it in the next room to where Victor is. All Victor can do while he's hearing the action in the next room is just dribble. So you really feel bad for Victor, and you feel, you start to hate this wife, but at the same time feel for her because, her husband is completely different now and pretty much can't satisfy her needs. So it's a really sort of awkward situation, and she continues to bring home these strange men, and all Victor's doing is dribbling, and eventually the daughter catches on to what's going on, and she starts to get angry at the mother, and the mother then starts regretting what she's done. She's feeling very guilty, and she wants to put an end to this. But one of the men that she's seeing wants a bit more, but she says no, pretty much tells him to bugger off. But he doesn't take that, and he follows her home one day, him and a gang of friends, and there is a scene of brutality. I'm not going to give away exactly what happens, but there is a scene of brutality, and it is all committed in front of Victor, who is just dribbling. He can't do anything to stop it. He's helpless, and these animals are pretty much doing these barbaric things, and they don't see this guy as a danger. They're taunting him. They're saying, I don't know exactly what they're saying, but it's obvious that they're taunting him and they're teasing him, and all he's doing is dribbling, and you can see tears running down from his eyes. So it's a really sort of depressing but very disturbing scene at the same time. So after that, they leave. They leave Victor by himself. As a few days pass, and he's got no fluids in his body, and you really do notice the difference. You notice how dependent Victor was on his family after, because of the fact that after this brutal crime, he is left by himself. And none of this is a spoiler, by the way, because you could probably tell on the front cover. So anyway, time passes, and Victor is just staying there by himself, and then this man comes into the house. Now, it's not clear to who he is. I won't give it away, but he pretty much signs. He has this contract, and Victor signs it, and then he can walk again. And so Victor follows this strange man, and they descend into this really morbid world. Now Victor is seeing all of the worst side of the human being, all these brutal crimes, really disturbing, and it's just a hellish sort of journey. And that's as far as I'll go. I'm not going to tell you what happens at the end. It's a film, once again, it's a pretty long film, so you probably struggle to get through this if you can't speak Czech. But just in case you want to give it a look, I'm not going to go any further. Now, as I said, 120 minutes was a very long film, and it really had to keep up the interesting sort of factor throughout the entire film. Now, the first hour, up until the scene of brutality, I thought was really good. The continuity was very good. It was flowing at a good pace, and it didn't really rely on dialogue. So you really didn't suffer from not knowing exactly what was spoken, and that's what I really liked about it. Now, it had a very soap opera kind of feel. Here in Australia, we have a soap opera, a very famous soap opera called Neighbours. This felt like an episode of Neighbours on drugs. You know, they've OD'd on some really bad drug, and it pretty much results in this. And that's just the way the camera was done. It feels like a very low budget film, and so that kind of put me off to start with. But the flowing nature of the film really took my interest, and I was thinking, you know, this is going to be really good. However, after the scene of brutality, things went downhill very quick. I feel that the film tried to be too tricky. It kind of left from where it was going. It started, you know, going at a really good pace, a really brutal film. But then it just started to get into a lot of dialogue, and I mean a hell of a lot of dialogue. And then it would cut to a scene of brutality, then back to the dialogue, scene of brutality, back to the dialogue, scene of brutality. So it was kind of, the dialogue was like a time filler before they could get to the good stuff. And unfortunately, in the second half of this film, when the good stuff happens, it is very fake looking. It is not very well done. Now, the acting, you know, it's pretty hard to tell, especially if you don't know exactly what they're talking about, if the acting is good or not. But the acting is just really bad, that especially from the guy who enters the movie halfway through. I thought his reactions to everything weren't good. It's obvious that this guy was from a higher sort of power, but you know, he really ruined it for me. It really brought it down to an amateurish sort of feel. The acting was okay up until then, although the villains I thought looked like cartoon characters. You know, not very serious, not very intimidating looking. But yeah, it really was a letdown in the second half. The first half was brilliant. I really, really liked the first half. And that scene of brutality to start with was really well done, very realistic, and very, very sort of in-your-face, unflinching sort of stuff. But then it just turns into violence for the sake of violence, really, and it just goes very fake and very cheap. And I feel that the director really lost focus, and he kind of lost control of the film, which is a real shame, because as I said, the first half is really good. But then I just think, you know, at the end of that, they went on for an hour too long, and they were just trying to find bits and pieces of this film to make it into 2 hours, when they really should have cut it down to about 70 minutes. I reckon a 70-minute long film would have been perfect for this one, but 120 minutes, it really started dying. But by the time I got to the end, I was thinking, thank God. It just took me out of it completely. The story, the disturbing factor of the story was over, because I just wanted it to finish. So, would I recommend this film? No, I wouldn't. If you want to see a Czech film, then yeah, probably. And maybe you'll get a bit more out of it if you can understand what's being said. But if you're looking for a lot of gore, there are some pretty good scenes of brutality in this film, but there are scenes of brutality that are very fake and very cheap looking. So it really is a mixed bag, this film. The acting was okay by Victor and his family, and some of the others were okay, but the guy who has the beard and who's introduced halfway through the film, he really kind of, it didn't completely ruin the film, but he was on the brink of ruining it for me. So I just think this is a very sort of half-half movie. Half of it was really good and half of it was pretty poor. So I'm not going to recommend this film, but if you're interested and you're a collector, then I probably would get this one if you can get it cheap. But if you want something that's going to test out your mind and test your limits, then this one probably won't do that. So that's Nekto Temdel Mamarad, aka someone down there likes me. Alright guys, that's my review. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you later. Bye.